the Alpha King's forgotten bride. The night everything changed. The champagne glass shattered against marble. Crystal shards exploded across the ballroom floor, glittering under chandeliers like fallen stars. But nobody noticed. All eyes were locked on the woman standing at the top of the grand staircase, the woman who wasn't supposed to exist. Alara Monroe gripped the banister so hard her knuckles turned white. 3 years. 3 years since she'd vanished without a trace. 3 years since the accident that was supposed to have killed her. And now, here she stood, alive and undeniably present, staring down at the man who'd married her twin sister exactly 6 months ago. Alpha King Darius Blackwood. Her husband. The recognition hit his face like a physical blow. Those storm-gray eyes, the ones that had once looked at her with such devastating tenderness, widened in shock. His hand, which had been resting possessively on her sister Vivian's waist, dropped to his side. Alara? The name left his lips like a prayer and a curse combined. Vivian's perfectly composed smile cracked. Just for a second. But Alara saw it. Saw the flash of pure terror before her twin sister's mask slammed back into place. I'm sorry, Vivian's voice dripped with false concern as she pressed closer to Darius. Darling, you're seeing ghosts. That woman, whoever she is, isn't my poor dead sister. The ballroom erupted in whispers. 300 of the most powerful wolves in North America, all dressed in their finest, all watching this drama unfold like vultures circling fresh meat. Alara descended the stairs slowly. Each step deliberate. Each movement calculated. The red dress she wore, blood red, not coincidentally, hugged curves that 3 years of survival had hardened into something stronger than the girl who'd left. The scent never lies. Darius moved forward before he could stop himself. His wolf surging so close to the surface that his eyes flashed gold. Every instinct screaming at him that this was impossible. That Alara had died in that car crash. That he'd mourned her. That he'd eventually moved on with her twin sister because the loneliness had become unbearable. But wolves don't lie about their mates. And his wolf was howling mate, mate, mate so loudly it drowned out every logical thought. He was halfway across the ballroom when his beta, Marcus, stepped into his path. Your Majesty, think about what you're doing. In front of everyone. Move. Darius's voice carried the weight of command that made even his most loyal wolves flinch. Marcus moved. Alara reached the bottom of the stairs just as Darius arrived. They stood 3 feet apart. Close enough that she could see the muscle jumping in his jaw. Close enough that he could scent her, wildflowers and smoke, exactly as he remembered, exactly as he'd dreamed for 3 years. You're alive. His voice cracked on the words. Disappointed? Alara's smile was all edges. How? He reached for her. She stepped back. Don't touch me. The rejection hit harder than any physical blow. Darius's hand hung suspended in the air between them for a heartbeat before dropping. Alara, I don't understand. The accident. They found your body. They found a body. Alara's eyes, those startling green eyes that had haunted his dreams, were cold. Empty of the warmth that used to light them when she looked at him. Convenient, wasn't it? How thoroughly burned it was. How quickly you accepted it was me. Vivian appeared at Darius's shoulder, her hand sliding possessively around his arm. This is clearly someone playing a cruel joke. Security should remove. I have my mother's birthmark. Alara interrupted, her gaze never leaving Darius. The crescent moon on my left shoulder blade. I have the scar on my right knee from when I fell off the training grounds fence when I was 12. And I have this, she held up her left hand. The wedding ring caught the light. Simple platinum, inscribed with words only Darius would know, 2 souls, 1 hell. The ring he'd placed on her finger 4 years ago. The ring that should have burned with her body. The accusation. Where have you been? Darius's voice was barely above a whisper, but in the silent ballroom, everyone heard. Surviving. Alara's smile turned feral. Learning. Planning. Discovering some very interesting things about my dear sister and her ambitions. Vivian's face went white. You're delusional. The grief has obviously. The car crash wasn't an accident. Alara spoke clearly, projecting her voice so every wolf in the room could hear. The brakes were cut. The road was chosen specifically because there were no cameras. And the body you all mourned? A homeless shifter my sister paid a witch to glamour with my face before killing her. Gasps rippled through the crowd. That's insane. Vivian shrieked. Darius, she's lying. She's. Prove it. Darius's words cut through Vivian's panic. He was looking at Alara with an intensity that made her skin prickle. If what you're saying is true, prove it. Alara reached into the small clutch she carried and pulled out a flash drive. Security footage from 3 different sources that somehow the investigators never found. Bank records showing payments from Vivian to known supernatural hitmen. And testimony from the witch who performed the glamour spell, recorded before she unfortunately met with an accident of her own. She held the drive up, letting it dangle from her fingers like a grenade with the pin pulled. Everything you need to know about how your second wife tried to murder your first one is right here. The ballroom exploded. Wolves shouting, reporters who'd snuck in scrambling for their phones, council members calling for order. But Alara only had eyes for Darius. Watching his face as belief warred with denial. As his gaze shifted between her and Vivian. As his wolf and his logic tore him in different directions. Darius, please. Vivian's voice turned pleading. You know me. You love me. Whatever lies she's spinning. The mate bond doesn't lie. Alara's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. You feel it, don't you? Right now. Even after 3 years. Even after everything. Your wolf knows exactly who I am. Darius's jaw worked. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. When he spoke, his voice was raw. I mourned you. I nearly went feral from the grief. And Vivian, his gaze cut to his current wife. Vivian was there. She helped me survive it. She saw an opportunity. Alara interrupted. She'd always wanted what I had. The Alpha King. The power. The throne. And when she realized you'd never choose her while I was alive, well. She shrugged one elegant shoulder. Problem solved. The choice. Guards. Darius's voice rang with command. Take Vivian into custody. And someone get that drive to our head of security. Now. What? No. Vivian tried to jerk away, but 2 massive guards materialized at her elbows. Darius, you can't believe her. She's the one who faked her death. She's the one who. If you're innocent, Darius's eyes had gone completely cold, the evidence will prove it. As the guards led a screaming Vivian away, Darius turned back to Alara. The ballroom had erupted into complete chaos around them, but in that moment, they might have been alone. 3 years. His voice was hoarse. Why didn't you come back sooner? Why let me think you were dead? Why let me, he couldn't finish. Marry my sister? Alara's smile was bitter. That part wasn't planned. I needed time to gather evidence. To get strong enough to face what was coming. I didn't know she'd moved on you so quickly. The mate bond was dampened by a very powerful spell. One that would have taken a blood relative and constant proximity to maintain. Alara's eyes flickered with something dangerous. Funny how Vivian was always around, wasn't it? Always there to comfort you. To help you through your grief. To make you forget, bit by bit, what it felt like to have a true mate. Darius staggered like she'd struck him. That's not possible. I would have known. My wolf would have. Your wolf was drowning in grief magic. Alara pulled out another piece of paper. I have the spell work. The receipts. Everything. Darius took the paper with shaking hands. As he read, his face went from pale to flushed with rage. When he looked up, his eyes were pure gold. She cursed me. For 6 months, he couldn't finish. The implications were too horrifying. Controlling you? Elara supplied helpfully. Making you dependent on her? Slowly making you forget what real love felt like so you'd accept her imitation? Yes. All of that. The truth emerges. The curse breaks at midnight. Elara checked her watch. In about 47 minutes. When it does, you're going to remember everything. Every manipulation. Every planted thought. Every time your wolf tried to reject her and the spell pushed it back down. She stepped closer, and this time, Darius could see the pain beneath her cold exterior. And you're going to have to live with the knowledge that you married your mate's murderer. I didn't know. The words ripped out of him. Elara, I swear to you, I didn't know. If I had suspected for even a moment. You would have what? Her voice cracked. Investigated your helpful, supportive sister-in-law? Questioned the woman who was holding you together when you were falling apart? Doubted the mate bond you thought you were forming? Yes. Darius grabbed her shoulders before he could stop himself. The contact sent sparks shooting through both of them, the real mate bond, undeniable and fierce. I would have burned the world down to find you. I would have. Let go of me. Elara's voice went deadly quiet. Darius released her immediately, but he didn't step back. I'm sorry. For everything. For not protecting you. For not knowing. For fucking my sister 6 months after I supposedly died? The crude words made him flinch. Yeah. That's gonna take more than sorry. It wasn't real. Darius's voice turned desperate. None of it was real. The spell made you suggestible. Not brain dead. Elara's eyes blazed. You still made choices, Darius. Curse or no curse, you chose to move on. You chose to believe I was gone. You chose her. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. Elara's composure finally cracked. I spent 3 years in hiding. 3 years recovering from injuries that should have killed me. 3 years gathering evidence and getting stronger and planning my revenge, while you were playing house with my murderer. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice never wavered. So no. You don't get to touch me. You don't get to explain. You don't get to make this okay with pretty words and excuses. The declaration. Darius looked like she'd torn his heart out. Then why come back? Why not just send the evidence and let us handle it? Elara's smile turned cold. Because I don't want justice from the council. I want to watch her face when everything she stole crumbles around her. I want her to know that I survived. That I won. She stepped closer, close enough that he could feel her breath on his skin. And I want you to know exactly what you lost when you gave up on me. I never gave up on you. Darius's voice broke. I mourned you. I died inside. And when Vivian offered comfort, he stopped, his face twisting with self-loathing. God. She planned it perfectly. Yes. She did. Elara's voice softened just slightly. Which is why she needs to pay for it. She will. Darius's eyes flashed gold again. I swear to you, she will answer for every crime. Every lie. Every. A scream cut through the ballroom. Both of them spun to see smoke billowing from the corridor where the guards had taken Vivian. Wolves were shouting, running. The acrid smell of dark magic filled the air. No. Elara whispered. She can't. An explosion rocked the building. Windows shattered. Wolves shifted instinctively. And in the chaos, a figure emerged from the smoke. Vivian. But not Vivian. Her eyes glowed with unnatural purple light. Dark magic crackled around her hands. And when she smiled, it was the smile of someone who had nothing left to lose. "You want to play games, sister?" Vivian's voice echoed with power that shouldn't be possible. "Fine. Let's play." She raised her hands, and the entire building shook. What has Vivian become? And what will happen now that her mask is completely off? The real battle is only beginning. Welcome to my channel Crownfire Tales. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Forbidden romance and secrets. The monster revealed. The ceiling cracked. Ancient chandeliers swayed violently, their crystals singing a discordant song of destruction. Vivian stood in the center of the ballroom, wreathed in shadows that moved with unnatural life, her perfectly styled blonde hair now wild around her face like a dark halo. 3 years, Vivian's voice multiplied, echoing with a dozen different tones. 3 years I played the grieving sister. The supportive companion. The perfect replacement. Her purple eyes locked on Alara. And you just had to come back and ruin everything. Darius moved in front of Alara instinctively. "Vivian, whatever you've done, whatever magic you're using, it ends now." Vivian's laugh was sharp enough to draw blood. "Oh, Darius. Sweet, stupid Darius. You still don't understand what I am. What I've always been." The shadows around her thickened, taking shape. Forms that looked almost human but moved all wrong. "I'm not just some jealous sister who hired a witch. I am the witch." Alara's breath caught. "That's impossible. We're shifters. We can't practice magic?" Vivian's smile was poisonous. "Tell that to our grandmother. The one mother never mentioned. The Dark Coven leader who was executed for blood magic before we were born." She spread her arms wide. "Surprise, sister. We're hybrids. Half wolf, half witch. But mother only passed the gift to one of us." The revelation hit Alara like a physical blow. All those times growing up when Vivian seemed to know things she shouldn't. When lucky coincidences always fell in her favor. When Alara's own good fortune seemed to curdle and die around her sister. "You've been cursing me my whole life," Alara whispered. "Not curses. Just adjustments." Vivian shrugged. "You were always the favorite. The stronger wolf. The one everyone loved. I just evened the playing field." The alpha's rage. Darius's wolf surged forward, his body beginning to shift. "You manipulated me. Made me think you were my mate. Made you what? Happy?" Vivian's voice turned mocking. "The spell didn't change your feelings, Darius. It just helped you see what was already there. You wanted to move on. You wanted to forget her. I just made it easier." "Liar." The word came out as a growl. "Am I?" Vivian's gaze turned calculating. "Then why did you sleep with me before the spell was even complete? Why did you propose after only 4 months? Why did you—" "Stop." Alara's voice cut through the argument. She stepped around Darius, facing her sister directly. "You're trying to distract us. Trying to make him doubt himself." Typical Vivian. Her eyes narrowed. "But it won't work. Not anymore." Vivian's smile faltered. "You think you're so smart. Coming back from the dead with your evidence and your righteous anger." The shadows around her began to solidify into grotesque shapes. "But you're still the same weak little girl who couldn't even defend herself against a car accident." "You're right." Alara's admission made everyone freeze. The old Alara was weak. Trusting. Soft. Her eyes began to glow, not with magic, but with something else. Something that made even Darius take a step back. But that Alara died 3 years ago. What survived is something you can't manipulate. Can't curse. Can't kill. The temperature in the ballroom dropped 20 degrees. The hidden power. Alara's hands began to glow with silver light, not the purple corruption of Vivian's magic, but pure, moonlit power. The kind that legends spoke of but no one had seen in generations. Impossible, Vivian breathed. The moon touch died out centuries ago. Apparently not. Alara's voice resonated with ancient strength. Turns out nearly dying opens doors that should have stayed closed. Or maybe grandmother's blood runs in both of us, just differently. She raised her hand, and the shadows Vivian had summoned recoiled. You're not the only one who spent 3 years learning secrets, sister. Darius watched, torn between awe and terror, as his supposedly dead mate faced down a dark witch with power that shouldn't exist. Every instinct screamed at him to protect her, but something in Alara's stance told him she didn't need protection. Not anymore. Alara, he said quietly. What happened to you? Her eyes met his for just a moment, and in them, he saw pain that went beyond physical. I died, Darius. Everything I was, everything I believed, it all burned in that car. What crawled out of the wreckage was something new. Something that learned to survive by any means necessary. The forbidden truth. Poetic, Vivian sneered. But power without training is just chaos waiting to happen. You have no idea what you're doing. Then teach me. Alara's words shocked everyone. That's what you want, isn't it? Not the throne. Not Darius. You want our grandmother's grimoire. The one mother hid before she died. Vivian's entire body went rigid. How do you? I found it. Alara's smile was cruel. 3 years alone gives you a lot of time to search through family secrets. I found the grimoire. Read it. Learned from it. She tilted her head. Want to know what it says about sisters who betray each other? The silence stretched taut as a wire. It says, Alara continued softly, that blood magic always demands blood payment. That every curse you cast on me, every manipulation you worked on Darius, every death you caused, it's all been eating away at your soul. Piece by piece. Vivian's confidence cracked. Just for a second, her mask slipped, and beneath it was something desperate and afraid. You're dying, Alara said with certainty. The dark magic is consuming you from the inside out. That's why you needed to complete the mate bond with Darius so quickly. You needed his alpha power to stabilize yourself. To keep the corruption from eating you alive. The terrible choice. Darius looked between the two sisters, his dead wife returned to life and his current wife revealed as a monster. Is that true? Vivian's silence was answer enough. There's a cure, Alara said, her voice softening. The grimoire has a ritual. A way to cleanse dark magic and restore balance. But it requires true love sacrifice, Vivian finished bitterly. I know. I've known for months. Why do you think I tried so hard to make Darius love me? If he'd truly bonded with me, if he'd chosen me freely, the curse would have broken. But he didn't, Alara said. He couldn't. Because the mate bond doesn't lie. Darius felt like he was watching his world collapse in real time. So everything, the marriage, the affection, all of it, was just you trying to save yourself? At first, Vivian admitted, her voice cracking. But then I actually started to care. To wish it was real. To hate myself for wanting something I could never have. She looked at Darius with genuine pain in her eyes. I'm sorry. For all of it. But especially for making you love someone who could never truly love you back. The confession hung in the air like smoke. The mate bonds pull. Alara watched Darius's face crumble and felt something twist in her chest. Part of her wanted to let him suffer. To make him feel a fraction of the pain she'd endured. But the mate bond, that undeniable pull, made it impossible to watch him hurt without hurting herself. There's another way, she heard herself say. The grimoire mentions a second ritual. One that doesn't require love. Just forgiveness. Both Darius and Vivian looked at her in shock. You'd help me? Vivian whispered. After everything I've done? I'd help you die less painfully than you deserve, Alara corrected coldly. Don't mistake pragmatism for mercy. The council will execute you anyway. But this way, at least you won't spend your last days being eaten alive by your own magic. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was something. Vivian's eyes filled with tears. Why? Because despite everything, we're still sisters. And because, Alara's voice caught. Because I know what it's like to be desperate enough to do terrible things to survive. Darius moved closer to Alara, careful not to touch. What happened to you out there? She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Not yet. The shadows of the past. Instead, she turned back to Vivian. The ritual needs to happen before midnight. Before the curse breaks completely and the council arrives. You have a choice: die by my hand, cleanly and quickly, or let the magic consume you and take dozens of innocents with you when you finally explode. Some choice, Vivian laughed bitterly. It's more than you gave me. The truth of that silenced any protest. Fine, Vivian said finally. I'll do your ritual. But I have conditions. You're not in a position to negotiate. Aren't I? Vivian's eyes flickered with desperate cunning. I know things, Alara. Things about what really happened 3 years ago. Things about who else was involved in your accident. Things you need to know. Alara's heart stopped. What are you talking about? Do the ritual, save me from the corruption, and I'll tell you everything. I'll give you names, dates, evidence. Vivian's smile was sharp. Because sister dear, I wasn't working alone. And the person who really wanted you dead is still out there. Still planning. Still waiting. The ballroom erupted in shocked whispers. Darius's voice was deadly quiet. Who? Vivian's eyes met Alara's. Do we have a deal? Alara felt the trap closing around her. Felt the choice being ripped away. But she also felt the truth in Vivian's words: there was more to this story. More players. More danger. Deal, she said. But if you're lying, then let the corruption take me, Vivian finished. I'm dead either way. At least this way, I take your real enemy with me. The clock struck 11. 1 hour until midnight. 1 hour until everything changed. And somewhere in the shadows, someone who tried to kill Alara once before was watching. Waiting. Planning their next move. Who else wanted Alara dead? And what will the ritual demand of her? The truth is darker than anyone imagined. The ultimate power and revenge. The ritual begins. The ritual chamber beneath the Blackwood estate hadn't been used in over a century. Dust-covered ancient symbols carved into stone floors, and the air tasted of forgotten magic and old blood. Torches flickered to life as Alara descended the spiral staircase, the grimoire clutched against her chest like armor. Darius followed close behind, his presence both comforting and suffocating. The mate bond hummed between them, stronger now that Vivian's interference spell had started to crack, but Alara refused to acknowledge it. Refused to let herself feel anything beyond the cold determination that had kept her alive for 3 years. You don't have to do this alone, Darius said quietly. Yes, I do. Alara's voice echoed off stone walls. The ritual requires blood from the one who was wronged. My blood. My choice. My consequences. Behind them, 4 guards dragged a shackled Vivian down the stairs. The dark magic corruption had spread visibly in the last hour, black veins crawling up her neck, her skin turning ashen, her breathing labored. She was dying, and everyone could see it. How touching, Vivian gasped out. The martyred sister, sacrificing herself to save the villain. They'll write songs about your nobility. They'll write cautionary tales about your stupidity, Alara corrected coldly. She opened the grimoire to the marked page, scanning the ritual requirements one final time. Blood, yes. Forgiveness, theoretically. And one more thing that made her stomach twist. A truth freely given by the condemned. Vivian's laugh turned into a cough that brought up black sludge. Of course. The universe loves its irony. The names are revealed. The guards chained Vivian to the altar in the center of the chamber, an ancient slab of obsidian etched with symbols that predated the current pact system. Alara began drawing the necessary sigils around the perimeter with chalk made from crushed moonstone and her own blood, mixed that morning for this exact purpose. Darius watched from the shadows, every muscle tense. What truth does she have to give? The names, Alara said without looking up. Everyone who helped plan my murder. Everyone who knew and said nothing. Everyone who benefits from me staying dead. That's quite a list, Vivian wheezed. She was strapped down now, helpless, her power dampened by the chains forged specifically to contain magical beings. Ready to have your world shattered, sister? I've been dead for 3 years. My world is already dust. Alara finished the last sigil and stood, wiping bloody chalk from her hands. Start talking. Vivian's eyes gleamed with malicious satisfaction. Elder Marcus Whitfield. Your beloved council member who spoke so beautifully at your funeral. He knew about the plan 2 weeks in advance. Took payment to ensure the investigation went nowhere. Darius went rigid. Marcus is my most trusted. Traitor? Vivian supplied helpfully. Yes. He's also been embezzling from the pack treasury for 5 years. I have receipts. Alara felt nothing. The betrayal should have hurt, but she'd gone numb to pain long ago. Next. Dr. Sarah Chen. Your personal physician. Vivian's smile widened at Alara's sharp inhale. The one who confirmed the body was yours based on dental records. Funny thing about dental records, they're surprisingly easy to fake when you're being paid enough. Sarah delivered me, Alara whispered. She's known me since I was born. And she's known about her gambling debts for longer. I offered to clear them in exchange for one little favor. Vivian's voice turned sing-song. One little body identification. One little lie. So easy. The chamber felt colder. Darker. Alara forced herself to breathe. Anyone else? Vivian's expression shifted to something almost sympathetic. Are you sure you want to know? Tell me. Your best friend. Lydia Thorne. The name hit like a blade between the ribs. Alara actually staggered back a step. No. Lydia would never. Lydia knew you and Darius were true mates, Vivian said, her voice gentler now. Almost kind. She also knew she'd loved him since they were teenagers. Knew he'd never look at her as long as you were alive. Knew that some bonds need to be broken before new ones can form. Darius's voice was lethal. Lydia helped plan this? Lydia suggested the location, Vivian confirmed. That specific Cliff Road. She knew Alara drove it every Sunday after visiting the orphanage. Knew the timing. Knew everything. She coughed again, more blood. In exchange, I promised to make sure you noticed her after Alara was gone. That I'd push you together. That she'd finally have her chance. The impossible choice. Alara's hands shook as she traced the activation symbols. Lydia. Her childhood best friend. The woman who'd held her hand through her first shift. Who'd been her maid of honor. Who'd cried at her funeral, fake tears over a fake grave for a woman she'd helped murder. She played her part perfectly, Vivian continued, watching Alara's face. Comforting Darius. Suggesting he move forward. Introducing him to me at that charity gala, making it seem natural. She's been patient. Waiting for me to mess up so she could swoop in as the better choice. Where is she now? Darius's voice promised violence. Here. In the estate. Probably upstairs trying to figure out how to spin this new development in her favor. Vivian's breathing was getting worse. The ritual, Alara. If we're doing this, it needs to be now. Alara looked at the grimoire, at the ritual circle, at her sister dying slowly on an altar. One more question first. Who started this? Who wanted me dead before you even got involved? Vivian's eyes widened slightly. You don't know? Tell me. The ritual. Tell me. The command echoed with alpha power that shouldn't have been Alara's to wield. But something had changed in her during those 3 years. Something that made even Darius look at her with new wariness. Vivian's face contorted with pain and something else, fear. Your mother-in-law. Darius's mother. Queen Morgana Blackwood. The world stopped. That's impossible, Darius said flatly. My mother died 2 years ago. Before Alara's accident. Your mother faked her death, Vivian gasped out, because the council was getting too close to her real plans. She's been alive this whole time. Orchestrating everything. And Alara, she looked directly at her sister. She wanted you dead because you're not just moon-touched. You're the moon's chosen. The one the prophecy speaks of. The one who will either save or destroy the entire shifter race. The prophecy unveiled. Alara's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, the grimoire falling from nerveless fingers. What prophecy? The one Morgana's been running from for 30 years, Vivian said. The one that says a moon-touched female born under a blood moon will either unite all shifter packs under one rule or burn them all to ash. You're that female, Alara. You've always been that female. Morgana knew at the moment Darius brought you home. Knew you'd eventually awaken your full power. Knew you'd be unstoppable. So she tried to kill me before I could become a threat. She tried to kill you before you could fulfill your destiny, Vivian corrected. Before you could challenge her for control. Before you could reveal what she really is. Darius moved closer to Alara, his hand hovering over her shoulder but not quite touching. What is my mother? Vivian's laugh was bitter. The same thing I am. The same thing our grandmother was. A dark witch who's been using blood magic to extend her life for over 200 years. She's not your mother, Darius. She's your great-great-great-grandmother who's been possessing her descendants to stay alive. And every 50 years, she needs a new vessel. The implications crashed down like an avalanche. She wanted my body, Alara whispered. A moon-touched vessel would let her live forever. Would give her power beyond imagination. And when you bonded with Darius, creating an Alpha Luna connection with the strongest Alpha King in generations, you became the perfect vessel. Unstoppable. Immortal. Infinitely powerful. Vivian's eyes were dimming. The car crash was meant to injure you badly enough that Morgana could perform the possession ritual while you were weak. But you died instead. Or so we thought. But I survived. You did more than survive. You awakened fully. Became what you were always meant to be. Vivian's voice was fading. The ritual, Alara. Please. The corruption is. Her scream cut through the chamber. Black veins exploded across her skin, dark magic erupting from every pore. The chains began to crack. Alara grabbed the grimoire, her hands moving on instinct. She sliced her palm open and began chanting in the old language, words that came from somewhere deep and ancient inside her. Words she shouldn't know but did. The ultimate sacrifice. Power flooded the chamber. Silver light poured from Alara's hands, flowing into the ritual circle, connecting to Vivian's corrupted magic. The battle between light and dark was visible, Alara's moon magic trying to burn away the corruption while Vivian's body seized and spasmed. There's a cost, Darius said suddenly, reading over Alara's shoulder from the grimoire. The ritual requires a sacrifice. Something precious given freely. I know, Alara said. Her hands were steady even as tears streamed down her face. I give my vengeance. My right to hate her. My anger and pain and all the darkness she put inside me. I give it all freely to cleanse her soul. That's not enough, Darius read further, his voice cracking. It requires. The mate bond, Elara finished. I know. Silence. No, Darius said. Elara, no. There has to be another way. There isn't. She turned to face him, and her eyes were glowing pure silver now. To cleanse dark magic requires pure light. The strongest source of pure light in shifter magic is the mate bond. I have to sever it. Permanently. It's the only way to save her. She tried to kill you. She's still my sister. Elara's voice broke. And I've already lost 3 years. I won't lose my humanity too. She placed both hands on Vivian's chest and spoke the final words. The mate bond, that golden thread connecting her to Darius, became visible, shimmering in the air between them. Elara grabbed it with her left hand, and pain unlike anything she'd ever felt tore through her. Elara, don't, Darius reached for her, but an invisible force held him back. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything we could have been. She pulled. The bond stretched, fought, screamed. And then it snapped. The explosion of light and dark magic knocked everyone to the ground. When the dust settled, Vivian lay on the altar breathing normally, her skin clear of corruption. Alive. Healed. And Elara stood alone, her eyes no longer glowing, the grimoire smoking at her feet. The mate bond was gone. Completely. Irrevocably. Darius stared at her in horror. What have you done? What I had to. Elara's voice was hollow. Now let's go kill your mother. The Queen's return. Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors exploded inward. A woman stood in the doorway, tall, regal, with Darius's eyes and a smile that promised death. Queen Morgana Blackwood had come to claim what was hers. And Elara, powerless and broken, stood between a dark witch queen and the mate she'd just sacrificed everything to free. Hello, darling, Morgana purred. Miss me?